Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Happy Monday. Every day's a happy day. Good morning. Every day's a happy day. You speak positivity into your existence. Don't speak negativity. Don't bring about negativity in your world. Negativity sucks. Good morning, Crystal, Sherry. A little bit of a schedule conflict this morning. Actually, I'm doing an interview in about an hour. Had a very special guest coming on. I have to jump off of here and jump on the key live. But we're going to have a special interview. I want to kind of continue the conversation this morning. Involving humanity. Thank you, Crystal. Sharing is caring. Absolutely. Good morning, Kati and Yvonne, Rebecca and Cindy and Mary. We jumped into that evolution conversation again this weekend. So I want to continue that. I think that's a good discussion. What are we making? There was a new study that came out. Did you guys see that? I was talking about Penelope. There's a new study that came out that showed out of the UK. Smart people in the UK. No, it's not because of their accents. And that's why I think they're smart. That's my indoctrination. For some reason, every time I hear a UK accent, I want an UK accent. I don't know how to buy one. I want one. It just sounds so smart and intelligent. I think I was indoctrinated in America to embrace the King's English. I don't. But they still sound intelligent. So anyway, a study came out of the UK, and it said that actually human beings we are a closer genetic relative to the bonobos, as opposed to the chimps. So I'm going to talk about bonobos and chimps this morning. What are we evolving? What are we making? Good morning, Nancy and Heaven and Sandra, Brother Gown and Jeannie. Old story, bonobo versus chimp. Chimp's violent, bonobos not. Environment modified their DNA. They had a similar ancestor going back. One took a very violent, competition-based route. And the other there was no competition, right? Because it had an abundance of food. It had an abundance of water. There weren't very many gorillas in that area. Lots of food. So one evolved more in a patriarchal, dominating, violent, evolutionary path. And the other just had berries and nuts and grapes, herbs, swing on the trees, have fun. So bonobos evolved to be this very, very, happy's not the right word, very peaceful creature, very peaceful. No documented evidence anywhere that a bonobo in captivity or the wild has ever killed another bonobo. While chimps, murderous bunch, kill their babies, kill their women, rape their women. But we still have more in common with the bonobos, genetically. I think it's a good example that we have to really think about what we're evolving. We have to really think about what we're evolving to the next generation. So I want to kind of talk about that this morning. We're going to go into an interview in a little bit. Good morning, Linda and Stephanie and Joanne and Sister Sharon. So we're alien and bonobo. Sharon, don't get me in trouble this morning. You know my thoughts on that, girl. I just don't think man is as special as he thinks he is in the universe. I don't. I think that man is special in his own little head. And we had a little help. We always have help. And in fact, the Egyptian said something. So don't you see? You almost got me in trouble. She said, "Man, we have more in common with the bonobo genetically." And I think that's a good sign. It's a good indicator. We can send man and human, woman, man and woman, off into an evolutionary direction of peace, right? We have to be able to have honest discussion and dialogue about this violence thing. We have to be able to, because we have good violence and we have bad violence, don't we? We have violence that's cheered, and we have violence that is hated, right? Is it? And so we have good abuse and we have bad abuse. And I don't think that any of that makes sense. I think that if we're evolving to become more violent and more psychopathic, this is going to end really bad for us. I don't think we are as bad as it can get. If the bonobos are where they are and the chimps are where they are and we're more like bonobos, it means we can get a heck of a lot worse. We haven't bred the worst human beings yet. Now we're trying because of competition. Competition, interesting word, right? So if competition made the chimps the murderous bunch they are, what does competition do for humanity? And my capitalist friends are here. They might be upset with this one. But capitalism is based in competition. Now, mind you, it's crony capitalism. This isn't real capitalism. We've never seen capitalism anywhere on this planet, and it's never existed in a form of capitalism. It's always crony. But still, this idea of competition, is it a good thing? Yes, Mary. So if competition breeds psychopaths, why are we still embracing that root function in a model of a government? Something to think about. I haven't made any opinions on this. I'm kind of just thinking out loud. Good morning, Brother Bill and Michael, Abdullah, Joanne. Chimpanzees also cannibals, right? And that's another one. And so the cannibalistic, it's not just murdering each other, but willing to devour and eat and take that energy in. Well, Joanne, I have one theory when it comes to that, or I don't know that it's a theory, but everything evolved to consume energy, right? From bacteria to multicellular organisms. One day, single cellular organisms decided, you know what? We can collect a lot more energy if we get together in groups, and we made multicellular organisms. Now, mind you, I think that there's a creator got in the mix there. I'll let y'all debate who that is. I don't care about that debate. But it's all about consuming energy. And so why did the chimpanzees actually eat the flesh? And I think chimps do too, every now and then. It's because it's still that need to take energy in. And is that not what war is about, Joanne? Is that not the same thing? I mean, we may not be eating the bodies, but we sure are eating the resources, right? We're looting the countries, we're taking the resources. And so we're still in this psychopathic evolutionary competition path of taking as much energy as we can. And I think that's probably a mistake. I think that we can become chimps if we really, really want to. If we keep embracing these competition style governments, these competition style everything, systems, I don't think they should exist. Should we ban competition? That would be my first question this morning. Should we ban competition? Good morning, Kelly. Good morning, Ivana. Bonobos also have sex with babies and youngsters. Age is not on their radar. That's a deep conversation, Joanne. I'm not sure how too deep I go into that one, but I do believe in like consent. I think we've kind of gone the wrong way in a lot of the different indoctrination that we have. If you have two consenting creatures and they have frontal lobes, then they can consent to anything they want. It has nothing to do with me. So what that age is as a child, where I'm going with that. So if you're a baby chimp, I don't know when baby chimps have frontal lobes, but once you have a frontal lobe and you can form your own opinions and your own decisions, what you two decide to do has absolutely nothing to do with me or society. And that's kind of one of the critiques about democracy. I'm not going to sit here and pummel capitalism. I still got some of my libertarian indoctrination in me. But even in forms of a democracy, right? I mean, democracy it's a gang solution. That's what it is. And as long as the gang is of a right mindset, then a democracy makes sense. If everyone's critical thinking and you come up with these solutions that everybody agrees with, then a democracy can be a very positive thing. But if you live in a time where you have some sort of a mass media that controls everybody's minds, you have a democracy, it's still going to be a very violent thing. You can make a democracy a horribly violent thing because they always say gang rape is a democracy, and it is. Let me see. From what I understand, it's part of their way of dealing with one another. With one of their own that dies, they stay close to the body for a long time and pick at the body. Okay, okay, so it's not like cats then, Joanne. It's not like cats, because you know your cat eats you. Do y'all know? I don't know if you knew that. If you have a cat, that's why they find little old ladies after they find them after daggone near a couple days or something. The cat, well, a dog, I think a dog would lay down next to you and just die to pass out, like, oh, my master died, I'm gonna go ahead and die. But cat don't give a damn. Cats are vicious. You cannot. There is nothing domesticated about a cat. A cat, when you die, that cat's gonna eat you. It's gonna eat the fingers. It's gonna eat the toes. It's a nasty thing. Let me see. So that makes sense. I mean, that makes sense from an energy collection perspective. But killing and then eating, like, that's the cannibalistic thing, and that's really what, unfortunately, a lot of the wars are about. They actually are killing and eating, not the bodies, but the resources. What's the difference between crony capitalism, Estella, and I think you said capitalism at the bottom? Well, so the difference, in my opinion, I don't know a whole lot about it, but cronyism is just basically a guided thing, right? You always have cronyism if you have a global elite, right? If you have people who run everything, they have all the power, they write all the laws. Like, what is one of the Rothschilds? One of the Rothschilds had said that, or Rockefellers, I forgot who. It's all the same thing to me. Said, if you give me control over a government's currency, I care not who writes its laws, right? Because he can buy whatever laws he wants. He can buy anything. So if you have a crony earth, in which we do, and you have an elite that runs everything and they decide everything from behind the curtains, it means you'll never have capitalism. You will never have socialism. You'll never have communism, right? Like, there's a reason why the CIA, they have a hiccup. Every time a successful socialist style government gets going in South America, they murder everybody. They funnel weapons. They get grassroots, efforts going to overthrow the government. They don't want any form of socialism get going. And the ones that do get going are crony. And that's how it always works. And so you always have this crony level. And that's the big critique of people who cheer capitalism against socialism, which communism is a type of socialism, is that it's going to be crony. You'll always have the kings and the lords at the top dictating to everybody else. And that's what we always have. And so that's why, Estella, I don't get into the discussions about capitalism versus communism versus socialism. To me, it's a defunct debate. It doesn't really matter, right? Because we have a crony world. And as long as the world is crony, none of us will ever get what we want in those forms of government. They see that coming a mile away. And so to a degree, they're still all competition based. So I know I mentioned capitalism, but it fits all the models, right? They're competition based. If you have to compete against others, you're going to create a chimp style species. You're going to keep evolving mankind to become increasingly more and more violent, whether it's a democracy or any of the other forms of government. It would seem through the bonobo chimp example that we're designed to not compete. We're not designed to compete against each other. We're designed to compete against extinction. We're designed to compete against a world that's always trying to kill us. The world loves us, y'all, but we're a part of an ecosystem. That ecosystem requires reclaiming of resources. And this is why I was spending a lot of time with Salin's voyage to meet the Egyptians, right? Because when Salin went to meet the Egyptians, the first thing he told them, and Plato gave a lot of his accounts. I think, who was Salin? Salin was Plato's uncle or something like that, a relative. But the Egyptians told him, said, you Greeks, you don't really understand. Like, you come from a great civilization, and your civilization was founded, by the gods, right? He says the problem is that you only know, you're just a baby. You only know back to the last extinction. We go back, I think he said, a dozen different extinctions where deluge and fire destroyed the human race. And it was all written down. If you don't have written language, then you can't preserve it. I spent a little time with the what is the name of that temple? The Temple of Horus. The Temple of Horus that actually also told the story of Atlantis, where it documented this great civilization. Not whether they had flying ships or not, I don't know anything about, but that's what they say, right? That disappeared, and Egyptologists don't like to talk about it because the fact is that greater things have come before us, you know. But my point there was is that so if we compete against each other, we're constantly trying to steal from each other. You know, that's what an economy is. No matter how you twist it, shake it, turn it, it's competition to see who can get the most and take. If I can take more from your kids, or I can take more from you, and I can teach my kids to take more from your kids. It's this competition, competing against each other. It does something with our genetics. It does something with that warrior gene. It does something with all the things that these professionals are trying to tell us about and warn us that we never listen to, that if we continue down this path of competing against each other, we will become the chimp. Violence will become a household name. We will murder, death, kill in every house. Right. And so and so I listened to the warnings, and it was interesting. The warnings that the Egyptians gave to Solomon were really based in that. It was based in that, hey, we always get wiped out, but we know you don't. We know because we write it down. We know because we engrave in temples like the Temple of Horus, and we write in the scrolls human history. And so we understand that human beings always go extinct. Now, whether that's, you know, you can look at it from a NASA perspective, in astrophysics, where the Earth goes through this different section. I don't think it's the Oort cloud. There, right? There's a string of meteorites, and every now and then we pass through that. And when you pass through that, meteorites pummel the Earth, and they say that that's what caused the Younger Dryas and all the mass extinctions that happen on this planet. You know, if we're not constantly working together as a collective to not be psychopaths, to make the next generation work better together, not against each other better, that we're not planning for these things, right? And that was the other warning that the Egyptians gave to Solomon, is it's all about government model, right? And it was just deep. It was deep. I didn't get into the, what is the other book, the Timaeus? I was reading the one starts with a T, Timaeus. I think Timaeus. I don't know. It's an old Greek name. But warning about the styles of government and what it does to a man, overbearing government, you know. And so I think the bonobo chimp is a great example. Also like the wolf dog example, right? Because wolves, their wild is gone too, because this is what we're talking about. And this, I know this is a bit of a summary. Thank you, Brother Jonathan, the Timaeus. If I said it right, Timaeus, I don't know. Is that we actually, we're on this evolutionary path. Right? We're either going towards being a peaceful species working together, getting ready for the next extinction event coming, or we're fighting with each other for an existence that eventually will always get wiped out. You know, like people can look at the pyramids and say, well, you know, what's the purpose of the pyramid? Some people say they were a water pump for irrigation. Others say it's for power. And I don't even get into those debates. I don't think that's what's interesting. What's interesting to me is that they're there, and we don't know who built them. Right? And we can go say, oh, well, this Egyptian pharaoh, stop it, cut it out. They might have built some of them, but the Great Pyramid was not built by the Egyptians. And the Egyptians even recorded that a lot of the temples that they ran into, they just kept building on top of the temples. Same thing as the Mayans and the Aztecs. They would run across a temple and they would keep rebuilding, and the Greeks did it too. And so you have temple on top of temple on top of temple on top of temple. But the interesting thing about the pyramid is that it's there, but the civilization ain't. So I think it's important that we don't fight with each other. I think it's important that we do embrace these real simple, basic things. Like I try my best to talk to people that, you know, these ideas, these concepts you have about skin color and race are ignorant as the day is long. And all it's going to do is end up in us continuing to play this competition thing where we eradicate each other. That's what it's about. You know, like I said, I don't like to talk about this particular word. I hate these racial phrases, but people don't understand when you say things like white supremacy, when you say black pride, when you say white pride, when you say all these things, I was looking at the news this morning in Germany and how things are getting a little rough over there. I think you're actually making it worse. You might mean well by explaining to somebody white supremacy or white pride or white fragility or any of these racial terms you come up with, but you don't understand. The people who get what you're trying to say, they just say, okay, well, I get it. I don't like it, but I get what you're trying to say. But people on the fence, you push them to ignorant extremes. And so you actually are making more of a problem. It's like the chimps don't walk around and and team up against, well, no, actually chimps do, but bonobos don't team up against each other because of the color of their fur. Your fur's a little browner than my fur. My fur's blacker. They don't do that. And we have to actually understand how not to make problems worse. When at the heart of it, I think most people want to make things better. I think most people realize that we aren't on a sustainable path, that we're going to continue to fight each other until the next extinction comes. Mankind gets wiped back down to a couple thousand people, and they got to rebuild everything from babies, and I think that was the real message that the Egyptians were trying to give Solomon. It wasn't for entertainment that they were talking about Atlantis. It wasn't for, we're going to tell you a great story. It was simply because they were saying, hey, listen, we're going to get wiped out. We always know when we get wiped out that we get wiped out. Your people don't know that because you don't record history. You need to start to evolve to get ready for this thing. I mean, we're at a time now, we're using AI and automation robots to go murder people. Why are we doing this? We're trying to tempt a war with Iran. Why are we doing this dumb, ignorant, violent, immature, de-evolved idea? And why don't we call the people who are doing it that? Like I said, I don't call these people my leaders. Now, they might be my Congress and my president and my prime minister, whatever it is, but these people aren't my leaders, right? Because they're not a part of my culture. They're not leading in any direction that's my culture. My culture is a peaceful people. Like I said, the people in my culture, the ones I call leaders, they end wars. They don't start wars. It's violent, psychopathic people who we like that are popular that start the wars, and it's all still based in this competition mindset. We need to be using AI and robots to diagnose when are we all going to die. How about this? How about we use AI, automation, and robots and take all of this mass military industrial complex and all of this amazing amounts of technology to determine when is the next asteroid coming? When is the next deluge coming? When is the next earthquake coming? What if we use it to do something sentient as opposed to killing other people and eating their resources? It's just cannibalism. Right? And it's not just at the world scale. We look at the government, but we do it in jobs and corporations. We work for corporations. And what are corporations' purpose? Like, here's a good example. The purpose of a business is to make money, just like the purpose of a single-cellular organism is to collect energy. You make psychopathic businesses with the competition model also. It's not even about genetics. It's just about a thing going in that direction, getting better and better and better and better and better at competing. Like, these big businesses just didn't come out of nowhere. They weren't all this massively evil and okay with murder and destruction. And, they slowly built up over time competing with each other till they got to a point where pharmaceutical companies, they started as holistic. They were helping people and healing people. And now they're at a point where just to stay functioning in the environment, they have to sell all types of drugs and drug people and ignore data, give out the percentages of how many people will actually die. And if you take this medication, we're making psychopath. I think competition is a horrible, horrible concept. Any business, any government, any form of power or control or system that's based in habitual competition, infinite competition, will always end up in a place where it takes life happily. And that's where we are today. We have corporations, we have governments, we have political parties, we have people who are perfectly okay with to continue with the murder, death, and destruction and taking life to get all the energy they can. And I think that's a bad idea. I don't think we're going to make anything good down the road. I think we are evolving everything, like we said in the movie, evolving everything to murder humans. We are evolving everything to murder a planet and ecosystem. We're evolving everything to become just artistic aficionados at energy collection and ignoring who gets killed for it. I think that's a bad idea. I got to move this stuff closer to my face because I can't, I can't actually, when I stare at the screen, I can't read it because I can't see it. Good morning, Ish. If you believe in reincarnation, it puts a whole new spin on your ancestors are walking with you, Gerard. Also, that we don't ever get wiped out. Well, Ish, I agree. Well, it's not, you know what, Ish, it's not even about agreement because none of us know. I don't know. It makes sense. It makes sense. I mean, I don't think that whatever we are ever gets wiped out. I think that we know the planet gets wiped out. We know the human beings get wiped out. But if we're spirits or energy, energy can't get wiped out, right? So it makes perfectly good sense. But that's where the fear comes from. So we talk about fear. Why does this competition model continue? And we know that it's heading in a bad direction. Fear, right? They get people scared of, well, I got to do something in this life. I got to collect this in this life. I got to collect. And when people can tap into what you're saying, that it doesn't end here, then that fear goes away. And then they can actually do what we like to say. We like to say, oh, well, I'll do anything for my kids. That's the biggest lie on the planet. I see very few parents are doing anything for their kids other than competing with other parents to steal other resources to give to their kids. So I see what you're saying. I do agree. I do agree. When people focus on when they focus more on energy, a lot of folks are scared of the word energy. I don't know why, but when you focus more on, energy and spirituality, which I think is the same thing, then they're less likely to get lost in the idea that we got to compete against somebody else because I worship this flag, you worship that flag. I've got these borders, you got that borders. Like I was thinking about immigration today, and it's the same thing. Like, there's all kind of crazy stuff in Europe happening right now because people are yelling and screaming. One side wants to let all the immigrants in, the other side wants to push all the immigrants out. And I think it's the adults and the mature people who are sitting back and saying, who's causing the immigration problems, right? When you shut down the wars, then you don't have a problem with immigration. Let me see. Good morning, Cedar. Human trafficking, creating cowboys and unicorns in order to keep society at arm's length away in ignorance so the elite can gorge and usury. Shiva. Okay, I can't understand the rest of what you're saying there. Calendar of the gods in order. So human trafficking is a business that's been here since the beginning of time. Totally agree. That's nothing new. They create cowboys, they create the patriots, and they create fantasies, the unicorns, to keep society at arm's length away from the ignorant. Right. And they keep society at arm's length. So I see where you're going with that. They use fantasy and indoctrination. They use tribalism and nationalism. They use racism and positive, pro-race, have pride in your race, and race doesn't even exist. Like they use these things to keep people divided on fantasies so they don't touch the global elites, right? And that's why everything's crony, and we're in a crony-apocalypse. The word I make up for the day, we're in a crony apocalypse because it's just a very small group of people run everything, and they keep everyone else fighting over things that won't actually solve anything. So I agree. I totally agree with that. I understand what you're saying. We are ripe for a reset, I think. Yeah, are we ripe for a reset? Well, I think I would love it if we did a reset. I would love it if an asteroid didn't reset us. I would love us if a collapse didn't reset us. I would love it if we actually looked and said, you know what? We get the problem, right? The problem is competition, and we shouldn't be competing. Like when I think people really think about the world as their family, you have 7 billion family members around this world. You're less likely to want to be okay with your government going to murder people, kill them, and take what they have. And I think when you see the world as your family, then we can actually do a positive reset, not a forced reset, right? Like a positive reset where we say, you know what? We're not doing this anymore. We're going to bring this thing to an end. We're going to use technology to help people prepare for the future. To help the kids of the future, not to get them to compete more against each other. Let me see. That's the problem. All the idol worship, they lost their way. Yes, Terry, exactly. They did. That's why I do go to the religion area, because we have to spend time there. right? People worship their leaders. They worship their flags. They worship their nations. They worship their borders, and they don't see it. They don't actually see it. Like, Terry, I did a video not too long ago, and I had the American flag behind me, and I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know what I was thinking. I'm not against the American flag. I'm not telling people to burn it or anything like that. It is what it is, right? Like, I was born here. That's the flag of the nation. I'm a part of this nation because I was born here. I'm also a part of my local community. I'm a part of my continent, and I'm a part of my earth. But do I put that flag over my local flag? Do I put that flag over my continent flag? We don't have continent flags, I don't think. And do I put that flag, that national flag, over the earth flag? No, we can't. It's not my option, right? It's not my option. And my belief, just call it religion if you want, and my belief, I was told to love people. I was told to put people before everything, people before governments, people before the kings, people before the leaders, love before everything. And so if I put love before all of that, then I can't have, I can't promote this idea of worshiping flags. I can't promote this. And besides the fact that if you do love that flag, whatever your country is, and you really want to stand behind it and you believe in the soldiers and the troops and, because I come from a military family, but my position is very different, I think, than what a lot of people's is. And that is, I think that when kids sign up for the military, they just want to be heroes. That's it. They were the little kids with the little gun running around shooting the bad guys, right? They just want to be heroes. They want to serve their country, and militaries are for defense, not for offense. But big corporations bought the militaries. They bought the politicians, and so they own them. And so they use the militaries as armed thugs. And I think that's the role of a patriot. If you love your flag and you believe in that flag, you need to start questioning, what are they using your military for, and who is they, right? If big corporations, like you look at Smedley Butler, right? You look at Major General Smedley Butler, who came out of the armed forces and said, you know what? I realize now war's a racket. He wrote the book and he explained to everybody, war is a racket, and it's always been. I signed up to defend my nation, and it turns out all I was doing was making millionaires and billionaires because I was working for them. I was working for, was it the U.S. Fruit Company or something crazy like that? And we need to listen to the veterans, people who are, if you are on that patriot path and you believe in that, then you need to actually listen to your veterans, not your politicians, because the politicians work for the corporations. They're just the departments of them. Immigration to Europe is no longer war related. It's mostly economic migration from sub-Saharan countries. Well, Ivana, that's partially true, not totally true. Like, why are they immigrating? They're immigrating because we destroyed their country. So it's not a new war. It's still the same old concept, right? It's the same old thing. It's conflict minerals. We destroyed their nations and we keep them third world. We bomb them back to the fourth world. And because we did that, they're not modernized. So of course, nobody wants to stay there. So there's a lot of different issues, but it's still that same violent concept in the war. We did it. We can't get away from that. So whether it was an old war or a new war, they're migrating because we destroyed their nation. They're not modernized. They don't have food. They don't like being raped. They don't like being killed. And because of that, they migrate. Right? So our stance should be, if we don't like immigration, we should be against all conflict, period. And we should be pro-modernizing their countries. That's the only way you fix the immigration problem. Like, there's no way we can get out of the immigration problem. We did it, and we live well because of it. All their minerals are in our smartphones. They don't have doctors and they don't have police forces. They don't have the things that they can defend themselves because we did it. And so my stance, you should know me well enough to know, is that if we spilled the milk, we got to clean up the milk. That's it. Whether we spilt the milk 80 years ago, we spilt the milk 150 years ago, or we're still spilling the milk right now. We did it. We're responsible for it. So we got to mop it up, and we need to pour them a new glass. That's what I think. And the funny thing about pouring them a new glass, helping build up their economies and helping build up their countries and fixing what we did, is we have robots to do it. So it's not like, well, I don't want to pay for it because in my country, they say, I don't want to pay for it. It's my tax dollar. And it's a silly and stupid argument because we now have robots to do it. We just, instead of putting the robots and the AI in a drone that murders people, we put the robots and AI in drones that plant food, drones that irrigate water, AI that builds houses, right? And when people, they have a place to live, then they don't come here. Right. So no matter how we look at it, we are responsible for the immigration problem. It's the opposite of competition, cooperation. Yes, Rebecca, and that's what I push every single day. We got to start cooperating. There is no us and them. We got to get out of this us them nonsense. There is no us and them. There's no left and right. There is no, American in that. There is no German in that. There is no France in that. It's just us. That's it. It's we're little schizophrenic psychopaths to some degree because we see all these different groups and it's just us. When we cooperate, the whole world gets better. Right? Like some of these kids that are migrating, some of these kids might actually make the new technology that gives us tachyon beams, right? They're like, I don't know, they can shoot asteroids and prevent the next mass extinction. But instead, we're playing keep away because we're born here. We're wealthy, we're privileged, we're supremacist. I don't care how you put it. We are, and we're playing keep away with the minimum needs that allows those people to live. And so, when anti-immigration and pro-immigration, when they stop being silly and they grow up and they actually look at the facts. I'm sorry, that's a little harsh. I don't say it that way. Not grow up. Just look at the facts from an impartial perspective and say, you know what? I get it why you're coming here. I don't want you here. It's okay to say that. It's okay. You can say that. I don't want you here. But dag nabbit, I get it. I get it. We destroyed your country. You don't have a means of living. And so you're fleeing to the countries that actually probably did the destruction because that's where all the resources went. People follow the water. They follow the food. They follow the minerals. They follow the gold. They follow the tin. They follow the technology because we go to those nations, we rob them, and we bring them back. And so humans are going to migrate like every other animal. They're going to migrate to where the bonobos are, right? They're going to migrate to where the food is. They're going to migrate to where the water is. I was a military brat. I know what it was like to miss my father when he was away from home, wondering if you would come home. Vietnam agent. Yeah, Terry, I was a military brat too. My father, but he used to work with the Pentagon. He used to work on some of the technology, and he was serving during Vietnam. He didn't go to Vietnam, but he used to go away too. And I was just always in this idea that he's helping to keep the world safe. He's working on things to make the world a better place. He's working on things so we can spread democracy. Now, just the military brat. And the reality is that wasn't what he was doing. That's not what he was working on technology, but that technology was being used to murder people. Right. That technology was being used to kill people. And how much do I know that he knew or didn't know? I don't know. But he lived his life and he died. And I'm supposed to learn from that. McCain lived his life. People still want to they hate McCain or they love McCain. There's nobody in the middle like, how about we just pay attention to what McCain did or didn't do? Ask ourselves the critical questions, right? Like Smedley Butler, the Major General Smedley Butler I think he died, but if he were alive today, would he go to the McCain funeral? Good question. Would he? When your veterans, and he was one of the highest decorated veterans, soldiers we've ever had. Right? When they're refusing to go, they shouldn't. Other questions I asked, like I guess Obama was speaking in, California or wherever? Should we be clapping? Good questions. Good questions. I can tell you this. I wouldn't be. I haven't clapped for a president. I didn't clap for Trump. Didn't clap for Clinton. Didn't clap for Obama. Did I clap for Clinton? I might have clapped for Clinton. Didn't clap for Bush. My kids are the reason why, for the most part, right? I don't say that my kids look up to me. I think my kids look sideways to me. They're always cutting their eyes. They're always they're up to something. Little velociraptors in the house, always testing the fence, trying to see what they can get away with. Oh, they cut their eye at me. But they don't look up to me, not necessarily in that way. I don't want them to look up to me. We have discussions. My kids are little negotiators because negotiating is important. It's the opposite of violence. And so they'll never see their father clapping for somebody starting a war. It'll never happen. They'll never see their father clapping for a man beating his wife, an abuser, right? Same abusive mentality. It's the same going to a violent solution, a competitive solution, or a collective solution. They'll never see that. Right? They'll never go back and say, well, yeah, I'm going to do this because dad did it and makes sense. No, these kids, they know with their uncles and the conversations we get, it's like, nope, dad don't want to have nothing to do with those people. They don't lead him. They might be the president. They might be the prime minister, but I'm highly in tune with what I see my kids see in me. Kids aren't stupid. Kids, they can spot a hypocrite. They can smell it a mile away. Kids aren't stupid. They pay attention, right? And so I'm not going to talk out of one side of my mouth and support that on the other side. And this is my stance in with the whole voting and the politician thing. Who are you going to vote for? Somebody that's not going to murder people. How about that? How about that? You want to come to me with a politician? Let me ask you this question first. Is it a politician or a party whose model is in murdering people and stealing what they have? Is it abusing a nation like beating a wife? Are they an abuser, right? Do they make excuses for it? Well, you know, we did this, dropped this bomb, killed these people. Weren't we just dropping white? Russia had put out a report this weekend that we're dropping white phosphorus again in Syria. Real simple. Is your politician's idea to murder people? And if it is, then I don't have it. They're not leading me. No one violent leads me. That's not leadership for me. That's not my culture. The people who lead me are people who negotiate. That's why I make my kids negotiators. They can talk through everything. They can negotiate, try to figure this out, whatever. But I just don't believe in the abuse mentality. I don't believe in beating up people because you can. I don't believe in beating up the weak nations. Like we talked about warriors and cowards, right? Warriors are the ones who stand up and throw rocks at tanks. They're the ones who defend the elderly. They defend children. They defend their homeland. It's that a warrior isn't somebody who goes and murders other people because they have a broken sword or they don't own a sword. That's not being a warrior, right? Yeah, we have warriors in our military, but cowards run the military. Cowards own the military. Corporations bought the military. And if you care about those things, you stand up for them. Let me see. Wait a minute, I'm going kind of fast. Okay, the message. I bought the excuse from the bottom of that he was being held back, but the Democrats for the majority. Then the Democrats for the majority. I bought the excuse from the bottom that he was being held back. Well, right. Well, Terry, they made it like it because they always give the excuse, right? They give the excuse. They say, but the Republicans, right? And it's the same thing. It's like an abusive person, you know, who a man who beats his wife. He's always got some excuses. But the chicken. But the this, but the that, but I'm stressed at work, but, and I don't care nothing about that. I care nothing about your excuses. If you just beat the hell out of your wife, you got problems. You need to be on lockdown somewhere, and we need to protect her from you. Now, we can talk about what happened, what's upset with you, and we need to fix the conditions that made you that way. But this whole, but the Republicans and the Republicans, but the Democrats, I don't care nothing about that because to me, it's all excuses. Right? If you are murdering people, if you are beating your wife and you come to me and you want to talk about, let's go to lunch and what kind of coffee do I want? No, we're not talking about coffee. We're not talking about healthcare. We're not talking about universal basic income. We're not talking about sentient things, right? You're not sentient. You're having problems. If you're dropping bombs on people and you're murdering people and you're stealing what they have, we need to talk about that first. You know, you can't come to me you know, as a psychopath, and we're going to talk about things that are going to help humanity. We got to get your humanity online first, right? So people come to me. It's like having a check engine light in a car. Like you bring a politician in, they got their check human light on. They're not even human yet. They're having problems. They're more like a chimp than a bonobo. You know, they make violent decisions instead of negotiating. We can't talk about that yet. We can't talk about that yet. If your platform, once again, if your platform is hate Trump, remove Trump, but we're going to continue to murder people in Yemen and Congo and all over the world, then we have nothing to talk about. We don't. You got to get your check engine light fixed. Get your check human light check first, and then come to me. We can have a human discussion. But until then, you're somebody who needs to be on a couch talking to someone through your problems while you make violent decisions in a world that you don't have to. I meant that I bought the excuse for Obama. Yeah, and that's what I was talking about, Terry. I was talking about the excuse because that's what they do. They try to give him excuses. And now he's like one of the top 10 paid speakers in the world, going around collecting all that money. And that people say, oh, well, mama, get your money, get your money. You know what I say? I just look at it just like cannibalism, right? You went and you did all the murders. You killed all the you killed all the different nations. What, he came into office, there were 2 wars. He started 7, something like that, or when he left there were 7. He got his wars too. Now I don't know if Trump started some wars, but I know that Trump doesn't actually exist. That these are just figments of people. These are unicorns. See, to put it the best way, these are the unicorns, right? They give people these fantasies, and the same thing continues to happen. Heroes defend, they don't offend. Exactly, Rebecca. Heroes are defenders. They're not murderers. There's a difference. Heroes don't violate with violence. They use force and they defend the weak. That's what a hero has always been, right? And we really got to get back to that place and accept that truth. Let me see. I know he's thinking the same. Trump drained the swamp is hollow as Obama's hope and change. Exactly. It's just because it's the same thing. It's the same fantasy. It's the same unicorn fantasy. There's like, it's a unicorn. It's a unicorn. I'm like, no, it's not. It's a unicorn. It's a unicorn. No, it's not. He's going to bring hope and change because Obama ran on the same platform. He was going to clean up Washington, and Trump ran on drain the swamp. They always say that's the unicorn. No, it's not. Somebody took a little piece of paper and rolled it up into the shape of a point and glued it on the top of a donkey or an elephant. But it's not a unicorn, y'all. It's the unicorns aren't real. The unicorn, but they might be real. Quantum physics, there's a lot of planets out there. It's possible. Ain't no unicorns down here. They don't work on either side of these things. But heroes defend. That's what a warrior says. I mean, that's what a warrior does. It defends. And so we have a systemic problem. It's like the bonobos and the chimps, right? You want to evolve things in a sentient path. You want to evolve things to be more peaceful. We have a systemic problem. We have a system that we must fix. And that's what's most important. Fix the system. Fix the system. Fix, but the party, but the immigrants, but the war, and I did fix the system. Because you know what? All these aspects of the system, they all agree with the violence. They all do. Whether you're about let the immigrants in or keep the immigrants out. In that discussion, everybody's for the violence. They're all for the wars, right? Both sides. It's like, okay, so we're going to keep blowing up your nation, murdering people, causing rape, war, and destruction and everything else. And let all the immigrants in. Of course, that's not going to go well. Or we're just going to keep blowing up and murdering and destroying countries and don't let the immigrants in. And so that's why I don't think we actually get to have discussions about root causes and sentient level topics. The topics are always in okay with murder, and then we can talk about all this other stuff. Okay with murder, talk about all this other stuff. And I'm just like, no, we have to go back to being not okay with murder. It's easy to blame others than to look at oneself. Exactly, Brother Augustine, and that's what people do. That's what they always want to do. They always want to say, but the left, but the right, but this president, but that president, but. They got butts everywhere, but we in a butt apocalypse. Everyone's got butts everywhere. Just look in the mirror. Do you support violence? Are you okay with the abuser? This nation, this party, this whatever, just beat the hell out of their wife. She's bleeding and bloody. #MeToo. Are we going to do something? Are you agreeing with the excuses, or you're saying violence is a bad idea? And that's all I'm trying to say. And every day I'm going to say violence is a bad idea. In fact, I got a sister that's going to say that in a minute. I got a special guest coming on. And in fact, we're going to have to wrap this one up because I'm going to have to actually restart. And I'm sorry, YouTube, I got a couple folks over there, but this is only going to be on Facebook, but we're going to talk about a few things. I got an interview I want to do with Sister Cindy Sheehan. She's going to be on here in a minute. So I'm going to have to switch over to Be Live. It's going to be on Facebook. So we're going to go through the last couple comments. I appreciate you guys joining. I had a schedule conflict this morning. That's why the interview is going to start at 10 o'clock. But we have solutions. And this sister that's coming on, she has some solutions that she's going to put forward. And there's a difference between talk and action. Everybody can talk. Everybody was born with a mouth. But you got to step up and act on it. Like if these things are made, look at the stuff that people are posting in this room. Don't listen to me. You don't have to listen to me. If what they're saying makes some sense, think about making a change. Think about making a shift. Think about we need to be making kids more bonobos. But not only that, we need to make everybody else's kids bonobos. And how do you do that? You give them grapes. Make sure they got good school lunches. I don't know if they go to school anymore. Indoctrinate them to join the flag and worship it. Make sure they have what they need. Because if your kids are going to grow up, your grandkids are going to grow up around psychopaths, do you think they're going to be safe? No, they're not. They're not supposed to be. It's a chimp world, right? We are bonobos, and we need to decide, do we want to keep going a bonobo path, getting rid of violence? Or do we want to go the chimp path, which is where we're headed. Being okay with violence, being okay with the excuses, being okay with the wars, being okay with all of that. I think that's a bad idea. I think we should turn around. All right, I'm going to disappear for 3 minutes, and I'll be right back on Facebook with Sister Cindy Sheehan, and we're going to talk about an upcoming event. So hopefully if you can join back, I'll be right back. This is Gerard. Love y'all to death. I'll see y'all in about 3 minutes.